We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. It is Sunday. I'm on the road. I'm recording this ahead of time, but I have the good fortune of having a guest that everybody loves, Ed. And I have a guest tomorrow that everybody loves, Old Soul. So we got a great couple of shows ready for you. And Ed comes to us, of course, from Tennessee. He's of a like mind. He's a little older than I am, but we've known each other for a long time, and we talk about important stuff and we fuck with one another because that's how we do.
That's how we roll. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. So
you gave me your cold.
I know. I got this cold. I told Ed this joke. It's highly inappropriate, but it's kind of in line with my sense of humor. I said, Ed, I'm finally getting over this cold. They put me on antibiotics. And as a double win here, I not only got rid of my cold, but that nasty case of syphilis, which I'm lying. I'm kidding. I don't have that or anything else.
He's not kidding. He's not kidding.
Anyway, Ed, there's all kinds of fucked up shit going on. This new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, I wanted to get your read on it because I know you're not a religious guy. But Mike Johnson was recorded at at one of those crazy cult fucking Christian rallies.
Yeah.
And he said he talked to God.
Yeah.
And he said that God told him he's the new Moses.
Yep.
Like parting the Red Sea. I talked to God too. And I said, God, what's up with Mike Johnson? And he said, fuck that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I did too when he said Moses supposes his toes are roses, but Moses supposes erroneously.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what he told me. That's what he told me, you know.
He's a rapper.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, he's got a whole new thing going.
Yeah, exactly. But so your take on Mike now that he's been in the chair for a while.
My take on him is he was a backbencher who rose to his current state because they couldn't agree on anybody else, is what it comes down to. And he'd been around long enough. Interestingly enough, of course, Liz Cheney included him in her book, and she put him in the book long before he ever took on the speaker.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Because he was instrumental in denying that Joe Biden won the election. I mean, he was instrumental in promulgating all of this misinformation and so forth. And she called him on it, and he said, "Yeah, I know it's a lie, but we're doing it anyway." This is the last thing we're doing for Trump, I think is the way he put it. So he's a waste of space. And not only that, he's a dangerous waste of space. I have a long history with these people. I did a paper on dominionism back in 1980. I was over at the U of M. I decided I was going to get my teaching certificate. So I went back to, I was taking education courses. And in one of those, I had to do some sort of paper. I can't remember what, but anyway, what I chose was dominionism, because this was just when Jerry Falwell was really getting rolling, and all of these others, where Francis Schaeffer and different ones were coming out and saying, hey, we need to take over. So I've been following these people for years and years and years, and Mike Johnson hadn't come up at that point because let's face it, he's a loser from Louisiana, but he has real ties to the guy who has the fake ark up in Kentucky, and
really,
oh yeah, he was his chief lawyer, I believe, for a while.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, not only is he unscrupulous and a fanatic, but he's also stupid. I mean, he's
he's not a bright guy. Not a bright guy.
No, not a bright guy at all. And but what he is, he's the kind of guy that watches Handmaid's Tale and says, "Hell yeah, we can do better than that. Watch." I mean, these people are real. They need to be watched, and they need to be locked up, quite frankly, because most of them are nuts. And there's nothing worse than a religious fanatic. Just go check out places like Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, and see what kind of just horrible stuff these people are up to. There's no difference. There is no difference between a Muslim fundamentalist and a Christian fundamentalist. There is no difference.
Yeah, to continue this inappropriate theme, I imagine Mike Johnson watching The Handmaid's Tale and masturbating, or calling it his porn and having to call his son and go, I couldn't help it. I had to watch Handmaid's Tale.
No doubt. Hey, Dad, what you watching? You got a Playboy? No, just watching Handmaid's Tale. Oh, okay. All right. I'll give you a buy on that one.
I don't
Can you
understand.
imagine being this guy's son?
Oh, wow.
It's been like being Barron Trump. You're fucked.
Yeah. You might as well get a tattoo on your face that says, please kick my ass.
Yeah, exactly. I feel sorry for him. I really do. I mean, but sometimes they do. Frank Schaefer, who is the son of Francis Schaefer, he came out of that whole family thing, and now he's the biggest critic.
Right.
Look him up and follow him, and you'll get the lowdown on some of this crazy, crazy stuff. And dominionism, it's called. They don't call themselves that, but it fits. They want to hold dominion over everything,
Right.
whether it's politics, education, art, you name it. They want it all sublimated under their very restrictive. Well, they want to go back to the Middle Ages, is what it comes down to, where you had the church and the aristocracy together,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
one legitimizing the other. That's why we called it the Dark Ages. Remember?
Yeah. No shit. No shit. It's it amazes me that as many people follow that direction as they do, because especially women, I don't know why women would willingly get into that mindset, because it's like saying, okay, you're a woman, you're a second class citizen, you just do everything you're told. Now, as much as I'd like that in my own relationship, that's never going to happen. It's me
No,
doing what I'm told.
that's
So,
right.
well,
That's the
what
natural order of things.
it is, if
Yeah.
we want peace and safety, shut your fucking mouth. And I do. I take it out here on the Rational Boomer podcast. Now, of course, his predecessor went and did a major fuck you to his own caucus in the House of Representatives and said, fuck it, I'm gone at the end of the month. That's not
Yeah.
surprising, but it could be a problem for the Republicans.
Well, it's definitely a problem for Marjorie Taylor Greene. She hooked her all her hopes on the wrong star. He's waving goodbye, and she's on the outs with everybody now.
Yeah,
So she is totally screwed,
yeah,
which is fine. I couldn't happen to a nicer gal, if you know what I mean.
yeah. It's truly amazing that Kevin McCarthy had, and I will say this, had the courage to just say, fuck the Republican Party, fuck you all. I'm just walking away. I know this leaves you in a lurch, but you kicked me out of the speaker's chair. The problem is he cut the deal. He knew what
Yeah,
the deal was going into it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
when he got what he was expecting, he's now pouting and running away, which I'm fine with because it limits the majority levels in the House. Anytime we can weaken the Republicans' control in the House, I'm all for it.
It reminds me of a guy I knew as a kid. He lived not far from where I lived in the poor section of town. And his first name was Drew. I'm not going to go any further than that. He
Okay.
had a wife and like 5 or 6 kids. And if you were familiar with Tobacco Road or any of the really, really the hillbilly things where they're just barely human, he would fit that bill. He drank a lot, probably bootlegged. I don't know. He worked for the Department of Sanitation, rode around on the back of a truck all day, and never saw him do a lick of work. But somebody convinced him he should run for constable, so he did.
Wow.
And he maybe they did it as a joke, I don't know. But he had the little cards planted up and all of that, right? And election day comes, and he gets he doesn't win. So the next day, somebody sees him and he's wearing a pistol. And they say,
Wow.
why are you carrying a gun, Drew? And he goes, man's got no more friends than I do, has to carry a pistol. So that's kind of Kevin
Yeah,
as
it is.
well.
It is. Not smart enough to see anything. What do you think he's going to do now?
I imagine he will wind up in a lobbying firm of some sort. I mean, his one talent and the thing that got him the speakership to begin with, guy can raise money like nobody's business, apparently. And
Apparently.
that's what I'm told is why he's leaving, is that suddenly his ability to do that dried up. So now he's got to find some other way, but he'll land somewhere. He'll be on like 10 different boards of different corporations and stuff that he's done favors for corporations and so forth. These guys have, a deep Rolodex that they can call up and call on and so forth. He will not starve, believe me. And you may
But
even hear from him again.
but he's probably grifted enough money at this point where he probably doesn't even need to work. I mean, he's been in the House of Representatives for a while. That's enough time to grift 20, 30 million.
Yeah, see, if I were philosopher king and that day is coming, I
Yeah.
would set it up so that every representative and every senator had to account uh, every year. At the end of the year, they had to declare their finances and show how much money they made and how they made it every year. And there would be no exceptions, because I see so many who go in making $174,000 a year or whatever it is. They don't have a pot to piss in when they go in, and a couple of years later, even before time for the next election, they've salted away a couple of million. So I want to know exactly how you do that, not so I can do it, although that wouldn't be bad,
No.
but I just want to make sure that everybody's doing it legally, which of course they're not. They're getting insider trading tips or investment things, sweet deals, just like the Supreme Court justices. I want a big luxury touring vehicle. Maybe somebody will give me one. Oh, look, there it is. That's Clarence Thomas. Okay, you know.
I agree with you.
Uh,
I've said the same thing, because every time they do an investigation into a rep or a senator, they always find this shady shit, like Bob
yeah,
Menendez, like George Santos.
yeah.
Who's to say the only ones doing that kind of shit happen to be the ones that get caught? I think they should have an accounting of everybody because it plays into what they do. I mean, if they're in heavy debt, like they check with the Supreme Court folks,
Yeah,
it's anything that can compromise them. And if you're getting money
exactly.
from somebody or you owe a lot of money, that could dictate how you approach things and decisions you make. And we should know that. We should know
Well,
that.
yeah, it's the nature of the business. I mean, there were a couple. I remember the woman who ran against down in Georgia. She ran for the Senate. She had been put in place when the black senator died. The
Oh,
famous one.
right, right.
Uh, and they stuck her in place, for 6 months or whatever it was, and she ran again. And they found out that she dumped all kinds of stocks based on what they were going to do with COVID going in. She and a couple of other senators dumped stocks like crazy because they knew they were going to lose, and bought others that they knew would probably, get a lot of cash infusion. So, and I don't know whatever happened to that investigation. She lost, and that's probably why it never came up again. But we know that it happens all the time. You're on a committee that's doing something with the oil and gas industry. You get all kinds of information that you can then use, and apparently there's nothing to stop you from using it if it's not direct insider trading.
Right.
That's how they do it. And then also they have all these, Lauren Boebert was flying away every weekend and talking to Christian women's organizations for a chunk of money. I mean, that should be restricted too. You're there to do a job. When you're not sitting in Congress, I want you meeting with other senators and so forth, or representatives, to try to address issues. I mean, they're always screaming about the border, open borders, open borders, open borders, but Joe Biden has been not begging, he's been asking, demanding everything else, do some legislation about the border. They
Right.
don't do it, and
No,
now
no.
they're trying to use it to um, basically deny funding to Ukraine, which is insane. That just means they're working for Putin,
Right.
and
Exactly.
that's another thing. I want anybody, Democrat, Republican, I don't care who they are, if they get money from a Russian, they should be expelled. No
A-
questions. They're gone.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They're gone.
What happened in the days in the 80s with Ronald Reagan? They all look back to him as he's this great guy. Fucking
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan and the Republicans hated Russia. Why do they love them now? I don't get that. They're no better than they were back then. In fact, they're probably worse. Because when
Well,
Gorbachev was in there, he was a little saner than Vladimir Putin.
oh, absolutely. And I question Reagan's. I think Reagan's hatred of Russia was right up there with Trump's Mexico built the wall thing. It's just opportunism, having a villain to play against. There's a bear out in
Absolutely.
the forest, all that bullshit. When they knew that the Soviet Union was faltering and it was going to fall apart,
Right.
that they knew that, and it could have been done a lot better, and there could have been a much better outcome, so that we could have done away with the whole arms race, everything else. It could have been done if it had been handled better, but it wasn't, because they needed the villain. They always need the villain. It's always communism. Well, communism wasn't even part of the Soviet Union by then, and everybody knew it any more than it's part of China.
Right.
Stop using the word. It's authoritarianism, period. Has nothing to do with communism or socialism at all.
And we know from the beginning, we should have learned a lesson. We knew from the beginning that Reagan and his administration were more than happy to try to game a situation.
Oh,
The
yeah.
thing with the Iranian hostages, he said,
Yep.
hold on to them until I get inaugurated so I look like the tough guy. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what happened. And
And,
that
and,
kind of
and then
bullshit
he,
happened.
and then he told them, we'll do some deals so you get parts for your jets, and that sort of thing too. That was all part of it. He was dealing directly with terrorists, and he should have gone to prison for it, but no, he became a vegetable, and everybody was poor Ronnie. Well, tough. He
Yeah.
still should have gone to prison.
Yeah. I look back at Ronald Reagan and I think he is the first drop on the waterfall of
Oh
where
yeah.
we sit right now. One of the reasons we are where we are right now is because of what Ronald Reagan started in 80 and henceforth.
Absolutely. I mean, I go back further. I think Ronald Reagan's the worst thing that happened to the country in the century, but Nixon was close behind. And he started some stuff like for-profit medical care. That was Nixon.
Right.
He and other things too. You have to find a decent Republican. You have to go back to Eisenhower, and he had his problems too. But generally speaking, I think he was mostly an honorable guy. Tricky Dick
I think
never
so too.
was. Ronald Reagan never was.
Gerald Ford
George,
was a dolt.
exactly. Under George Bush, I had some affinity for. George W. Bush, not at all. He was another dolt, a useful idiot. Both
Yeah.
he and Ford and Trump too, except they didn't realize the depth of Trump's depravity. I think that they didn't really realize how insane and stupid
Yeah.
he is. It's hard to conceive that any human being his age could be as stupid as he is and have money, but not when you inherit it. I mean, Trump reminds me of one of those princes of England who became king simply because of hereditary. And, they were borderline,
Imbeciles.
yeah, we'll
Cre-
go with that.
Cretins. Imbeciles. Yeah. No,
Exactly.
that is the most surprising thing one of the most surprising things I learned about Donald Trump. I knew he was arrogant. I knew he was a narcissist, but I had no idea the level of ignorance. And I don't know if it's ignorance per se or just a symptom of
It's
narcissism because
that.
because it's all about him. It's
Yeah.
about him first. And he's stupid about other stuff. Is it because he doesn't know or because he's just too focused on him? I'm not sure which, but the end result is the same. So who gives a shit? And I think when he came in, they didn't want him to be president because they knew he wasn't part of the group. But then when he came in to become president, they realized he could be a useful idiot. And then they
Yeah.
did use him
Yeah.
until they were surprised how far down this motherfucker would go. They were,
Exactly.
I mean, they
They,
were evil
they,
in their own right, but they had no idea how bad this motherfucker could be.
right. I always refer people to, he always talks about, he knows about everything there is to know about nuclear energy and weapons
Right,
because
right.
his uncle was at MIT and knew about it. It's like, and he refers to things like, poisoning the blood. It's like he thinks he gets information through heredity. And
Yeah,
he gets wisdom through heredity just by being born Donald Trump. He got all the information he ever needed. I mean, one of his college professors called him the dumbest student he ever had.
right.
And I believe that. And not only that, but I believe he slapped his music teacher when he was in second grade.
Wow.
And his defense was she didn't know anything about music. you know?
It's funny. I saw a video, an old video of Donald Trump's uncle, the guy that
uh,
went to MIT, and he was talking about some things. And what they say is that when Tesla died, they had him look over his shit because there was
oh,
and some of the
yeah,
shit went missing and all of that
yeah,
stuff. I don't know all the details of it, but when I watched this guy talk, he seemed fairly bright and fairly normal for the times.
right.
And but Donald Trump, I'm sure Donald Trump thinks, because of his uncle, he just as well has a degree from MIT now too,
Yeah,
by virtue of DNA.
yeah, and I don't even think Trump graduated from Penn. I mean, he tries to say he went from their economics institute, but he never got into the upper school. But I'm not even sure he got a graduation credential from a diploma from
Oh,
University of Pennsylvania. I'm not sure.
if he did, it was probably bought and paid for. He certainly
Oh
didn't
yeah.
do it on his own accord. He wasn't bright enough to actually graduate.
Well, his Mary, what is she? His
Niece.
niece. She says he paid somebody to take his SATs. She knows that for a fact.
And I was thinking, when I heard that, I thought, you can do that?
Yeah.
But no,
Uh,
it wouldn't surprise. Did you hear about this situation in in the New York case, or not the New York case? We'll get to that, but in the Washington D.C. case. Now, Donald Trump has said he'd like the case dismissed because he has immunity because he's president. I thought we litigated this many times before and found out that wasn't true. Well, still, he's doing that. And she said, fuck yourself, no. And
no.
so he's appealing it. And he thinks the whole case should be put on hold while he
Yeah.
appeals it.
Yeah.
And they're not saying they're going to do that. That'd be crazy. So
Yeah.
Donald Trump is now saying, well, it should be appealed. So I'm not participating in this case anymore. I'm not hitting any deadlines. Far as I'm concerned, it's over until I say it's on again. How do you think that's going to go?
I'm guessing that the judge is going hide and watch, motherfucker. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I did hear something this morning about out of Atlanta. You remember Mr. Cheeseburger?
Yeah. Cheeseburger.
And
Yeah.
Cheeseboro or Chesboro, I think he likes, so I call him Cheeseburger.
Yeah.
He
That sounds good.
apparently, as part of his um, plea deal, he had to agree to testify against others, including Trump. And he has been both in Nevada, Arizona, or rather not both, but he's been in Nevada, Arizona, and Wisconsin
Wow.
testifying about their fake electors. That's what he was involved with mostly.
Right.
So he's testifying in all three of those cases, where all of the fake electors have been charged now, in all three of those locations. So there's some other folks going to jail, or they'll be pleading out and throwing their testimony in too. So Mr. Chesbro's turning was very, very good for the prosecution.
Well, that's what's interesting. Nevada just indicted the fake electors.
Yep.
Kenneth
Arizona
Chisholm.
apparently is looking at it.
Yeah. So my question is this: is in Georgia, they indicted the fake electors in this whole RICO thing, but they
Right.
also indicted Donald Trump, Mark Meadows, Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, and all that stuff.
Right.
In these other swing states, might they replicate what happened in Georgia
I'm
and
sure.
and indict some federal players too, like Donald Trump?
I'm almost certain they will, and I'm sure there are some members of Congress going, why didn't they get the damn pardon? I mean, I think that when they asked for it, didn't get it, and now they're going to need it, which they're not going to have. So they'll have to. I mean, if you're looking at 7 to 8 years versus 6 months, what are you going to do? You're going to flip.
And these electors are just average Joes. They're not rich. They're not famous. They're not powerful. They're just people thought they were saving the world by doing this fake elector thing. And they work insurance jobs and teachers and shit. Now these motherfuckers could go to jail for a year or more. That's gotta freak some of these fucking people out.
Now, speaking of going to jail, just to flip the script here for a minute, and Mr. Johnson, you asked me what I thought about him. Now, so he comes out, and we're going to release all of the tapes to be transparent.
Yeah.
And then he comes up and says, but we're going to blur the faces so the DOJ can't indict these people. Of course, the DOJ has the unblurred footage already. They were given that footage by the January 6th committee, but still, it just goes to show you that they're still pushing this big lie that the January 6th thing was a put-up job by the FBI or Nancy Pelosi or a conspiracy of some sort. Now, they never talk about the fact that I forget how many people have been not only convicted but sentenced and put in jail. And every damn one of them is a Republican, a MAGA Republican. Not one of them is a Democrat. Not one of them is a Antifa. Not one of them is a BLM person.
Or an FBI agent.
Or an FBI agent. There's some cops among them. There's some former military among them. I may even be some current military. I can't remember.
I think there is.
Yeah, but that alone blows everything they're saying out of the water, and I don't know why. See, this is the horse race thing. It drives me crazy when I see somebody in mainstream media talk about, put that forth. This is what they're saying, and then they never say, of course, dozens and dozens of people have been indicted, convicted, and are now in prison, and they're all Republicans. They never say that, which should be addendum to everything to do with January 6th.
Well, I don't think anything they do really has anything to do with truth or fact. It's about muddying the court of public opinion, trying to smear whoever they're going to smear. I don't know if you heard, George Santos got his ass kicked out.
Yeah.
Now he's on Cameo.
Yeah.
He got a movie coming out. And you know what? If you were a little younger, you could probably play George Santos. You're an actor.
I could shave my beard, put on a few pounds, maybe
and a sequin
what's
dress.
that what's that makeup stuff he gets? I get some
Botox.
of that.
Botox.
There you go.
Need a boatload of Botox to drop 40 years.
Yeah, I'm too old for him. Let's see, who could I play in the movies? Well, if I shaved, I could play a lot of them. I'd probably get away with them.
Yeah, you definitely could. But here's the thing. One of the Republicans that were going to run off in the special election.
Yeah.
He ended up just dropping out of the case, or out of the election. You know why? Because he was a January 6th convict.
There you go.
You got George fucking Santos. You get his ass kicked out. So you put up a guy who was a January 6th to replace him. How stupid is that?
Well, the shaman's running.
Yeah.
Buffalo Head guy, he's running for he's cleaned up his act and he's running for Congress.
That guy has some mental disabilities.
Oh, absolutely. You think?
That guy, somebody who loves him, and maybe there's nobody, needs
Well,
to
he's
sit
got a
him down.
mother. No, he's got a mother,
Well, I heard she said to him when he went up to try to hug her, she said, I don't like you like that. But somebody should sit him down and say, fuck, you're lucky you're out of jail alive. Why don't you settle down, get a regular job, and shut the fuck up? But yeah, that motherfucker's going to end up in jail again doing something stupid. I guarantee you.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. And let's face it, if you were dumb enough to get on a bus or hop in your Humvee and head for Washington for January 6th to stand up for Trump, you got mental problems already. In the sense that you're really easily indoctrinated or you're stupid. One of the two.
Yeah. There's no question. Now, in talking about that situation in Washington, D.C., I've never heard anybody like Donald Trump saying, okay, we got a court case. I don't like the way it's going, so I'm just not going to participate. Yeah. I mean, that shows the level of desperation he's got. He's trying delays. He's trying legal tricks. And he can't even do that anymore. So he's going, I'm just not fucking playing. I'm just not playing. Yeah. Like that's going to do something.
I was listening to somebody yesterday who was saying that Trump sees all of these court cases like he had no reason to show up yesterday.
Right.
He wasn't required to be there. He has nothing that he can add. I mean, he has a day where he does have to come and I believe and testify. Monday. Yeah, but he didn't have to be there before that. But they see it. He sees this as an opportunity. He knows where the cameras are. He can come out and he knows that he will get his 5 minutes that day to impugn the judge, to impugn the prosecutor, to impugn the clerk, which he didn't do because they got the gag order back on that. But he sees this as one more reason. He knows his people are looking, and he's looking strong by saying, I'm not going to participate anymore, and then they won't notice when, of course, he caves.
It's funny you should say that because I just did a TikTok about this, how Donald Trump and all his Trump-la-fuck buddies talk about how strong Donald Trump is, how tough. He's not afraid of anything or anybody. And he goes into this court case, this trial, and they're going to take all his shit. He knows they're going to take all his shit. So he's ranting and raving, yelling about the judge, yelling about his wife, yelling about Letitia James and this law clerk. Well, the law clerk was a bridge too far for Judge Engeron, so he slaps the gag order on him. Well, Donald Trump then appeals it, and they put a stay on the gag order. The moment that stay is on, he starts talking shit about the law clerk again, just to be defiant. Well, then Jack Smith comes in and says, enough of this bullshit, put the gag order back on. This is dangerous for this poor woman. So they put the gag order back on, and he's still trying to get it taken off. He never will, but he's trying. So he goes to court on Thursday, trying to look tough, trying to look stern. And after the session, he goes out. He's ranting about the judge. He's ranting about Letitia James. But that pussy ass bitch didn't say one fucking word about the law clerk. Tell me how tough and strong you are, motherfucker.
Yeah, I will never surrender. Oh, you want to buy my Mugshot. I
Yeah.
did mention, didn't I, that he's not going to get any money from that because it belongs to the
Yeah.
police department. Any money that he has to turn over to them.
Well, there was some talk
That's,
about that, and I'm glad to hear that that's how it ended up working out. Donald Trump loses a fucking game.
yeah. Well, at some point, I mean, the worst thing they can do for him, I think this is why he doesn't show up at many of these other cases. He is really concerned with this one because it hits him where he really hates to be hit, and that's his reputation as this business genius.
Yeah.
They're showing that he's nothing but a fraudster. He's no better than the guy who sells you the fake Rolex on in Times Square. That has nothing inside it. That's the level of businessman Trump is. He was nothing but a scoundrel, and that comes out. And that really pisses him off because that's how he made his mark, was being seen as this a real estate genius. He's doing all of this. All of it failed.
Right.
All of it failed. All of it failed. Or it was a grift, or it was a fraud.
And that's why I
And
think this lawsuit may be the most devastating thing, because it
yep,
takes away everything that is part of his image, the perception
yep,
people have. And when I think once this lawsuit is done and he loses a bunch of money, his buildings and shit like that, we're going to be dealing with a totally different type of Trump. He's even going to be even crazier, or he's
yep,
just going to be a shell.
yep. And I'm voting for Shell. I really think at some point Mr. Trump won't be with us anymore.
I do
Um,
too.
I really feel like that's going to happen. He's going to be flinging ketchup some night or something, and that's going to be the one. There's going to be something that's going to set him off, or he's just going to fall down the stairs or whatever it takes. But that sometimes that's the last resort. I can remember how many times. Remember Jeffrey Epstein and all these guys? They're just fine, and then suddenly they're showing up at court and with a walker. You
Yeah,
know, I don't see that as being far off at some point. I really expect that with Rudy Giuliani.
definitely
Yeah,
Rudy Giuliani.
yeah, but which that Rudy has just been not doing so well either. I mean, he's still going to have to pay for defamation against the poll workers who sued him.
Ruby Freeman and a daughter. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's and no plea deal for Rudy, so that's got to hit him hard.
Well, and that's the weird thing is, Mark Meadows got the immunity on the federal level, but we
Yeah,
find out now he's definitely not getting a plea deal in Georgia.
nope.
That's kind of a fucked up mess. I mean, if you're going to cut a plea deal and get immunity, you're going to want to cover both ends of the fucking spectrum. He either
You'd think
fucked up
so.
or that option wasn't there. Fani was never going to do it.
That has to be. It has to be that she was never going to do it. Maybe she already knew what. We don't know what she has. We don't know what she doesn't have. But it may very well have been she didn't see that there was anything he could add to what she already had.
That could
You
be.
know,
That could be. Well, Ed, I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break and we will be right back.
good old.
We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Ed is joining me on the show today. Always a great conversation. And Ed, you were just telling me some news you're finding about the most beloved Supreme Court Justice, Clarence Thomas. What's up?
Yeah. Well, let me put it in context. Okay. I come to you, Mike, and I say, I got this really good deal on a luxury a recreational vehicle. Only thing is, it's $267,000 and change, and I can't really pony that up. Would you float me a loan?
Right.
So you give me the money, right?
All right.
Now I happen to be a Supreme Court justice. Okay. Now I
Just
pay,
happened to be.
yeah, I pay the interest on the loan, which is like $20,000. But if you look at my tax returns, there's no mention of this and beyond that. Now, at some point, this loan was forgiven. But when you get a loan forgiven, the IRA, it's like winning something on a game show. You
Right.
still got to pay the tax. Well, he didn't. He didn't pay the tax, and there's no mention of it anywhere in his tax returns over the years. This friend of his, who happens to be a wealthy Republican, just forgave the loan, but he never paid the tax on this, essentially a gift, right? It's
Right.
there's a gift tax. He never paid it. And they started going down this road, and they find there's all kinds of things like this where he got gifts that he never reported and he never paid the taxes on. This is all coming out of the Wyden probe that's going on right now. So one would think the IRS would be interested, wouldn't you,
I would
to
think
know
so.
that?
I mean, that's what I don't know. I'm not sure people understand is if I give you a loan of $20,000,
Mhm.
that's not taxable on your income tax because you're going to pay it back. But if I say, just go ahead and keep the loan, now that loan becomes income and you're required to pay taxes on that income. And what you're saying is, he got the loan to cover the
Yep.
bases. So basically what they said is, we'll call it a loan. So you don't
Right.
have to pay taxes on it. And
Right.
we'll forgive it later and nobody will fucking know. But somebody
That's
does know.
yeah. In other words, he went and said, he probably said, look, you got a case coming up in a couple of years or a year or so, or we can make a case come up
Right.
that you're interested in. And I can really use an RV, you
Right.
know. Oh, well, we can make that happen. You know, I'll give you a loan. You can buy it, and then we'll just let the loan slide. Okay. But you got to pay the interest, make it look above board. All right. And there we go. So he gets
Well,
a $267,000 RV so he could go camp out in Walmart parking lots and only pay $20,000 in interest.
right. Well, that's the insidious thing about this and how much they thought about it before they did this. Now, if
Right.
you were just going to cut it down to bare bones, you'd say, Judge, I want you to do this for me. Here's $275,000 to do that. But they know they can't do that without getting some shit. So they decide, well, maybe if I give you a loan. But the guy says, what would I loan you? What would you need the loan for? Well, I'd
Yeah.
really like an RV. So they give him the loan. And then later they say, you're good. And then he
Yeah.
doesn't report it on his taxes. This guy, you would think the IRS would be all up in that shit. I mean, if you had a $275,000 chunk of income last year and you didn't
Yeah.
pay taxes on it, you might get a call.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I think what was it? There was something where we filed and there was like $27 difference. You know,
Right.
they let me know about it. Believe you me.
Yeah, they send you a fucking bill. I've had that too, where when I had a bunch of different streams of income, none of them were really big, and I'd put
Yeah.
them all out there, and I'd forget about one that was $2,000 from some deal I did.
Yeah.
6 months down the road, to go, hey, you forgot about this $2,000 thing. Send us our money. Yeah, they
Yeah, and
don't.
by the way, we're hitting you with a penalty. You
Right,
know,
right, which is more than the fucking amount.
exactly. But that doesn't work if you're Supreme Court justice. Also, a lot of these luxury trips, right?
Right.
You know, he gets a first class ticket to go somewhere and hang out and smoke cigars and so forth. That's taxable too. That's
Yeah, that's
another
income.
gift, and it has to be reported. But well, not according to the ethics of the time. Hey, if a waitress at Denny's has to report something, a fucking Supreme Court justice should have to report it. Let's have a little equity here, shall we? You
Well,
know, because
that's
this is the
exactly it.
thing that they're screaming about. They want to hire more IRS agents so they can go after the little people. Bullshit. We all know that all of that focus and all of the new agents that would be hired, and it's far less than they're talking about, would be going after the high buck criminals. And some of them may not even be criminals. They just might be doing it wrong too. But that's what you want your IRS concentrated on always.
Well, and the
You know,
IRS is really worried about servers' tips.
right.
That's why whenever my wife and I go to a restaurant, we go to a lot of restaurants, we might pay with a card, but we
Yeah.
always make sure we have cash to pay the tip because I
Yeah.
don't want it going through the system. I don't
Well,
want
that's right, because it's taxed twice if you put it on your card.
right,
It's taxed twice, and that means they get much less.
right.
So, carry some cash with you and tip your servers for God's sake.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. And I got to tell you, man, one thing I've learned in my life, it pays not to be cheap with servers, especially if you go back to special places.
Yes.
We have this one place we go in town and we always tip incredibly well. And because we order the same things pretty much, I walk into this place, my wife and I, within 2 minutes, I got the waitress there with the drinks we want and ready to take our order. And they love us, we love them. And, it doesn't kill us to tip them a little bit more. It helps them. Everybody's happy. It's a win fucking win. Don't be cheap when it comes to tipping.
Same with me. I mean, the places that we go here in town and get takeout from and so forth, I walk in the door, it's like Norm,
Right, right, right.
from Cheers, simply because I tip appropriately and then a little more. And it doesn't hurt me, it helps them. And, I always heard that TIP stood for to ensure promptness. That's not true, but still it works. And that's what you're doing. You're giving them a little bit more so they treat you a little bit better and don't spit in your burger when you're not looking.
Well, and in spite of the fact we're not in school anymore, it's the one way people, clowns like you and I, can go into an establishment and be in the popular crowd.
Right, exactly. But I cannot believe, and maybe it's a Southern thing, but you know, I am appalled at how poorly people tip.
Oh,
It's insane. It's insane. I mean, we lived in a major metropolitan area, and where servers are not shy about letting people know if they're getting screwed. So you learn real quick that you better come close anyway, or you will pay the price. Believe me, in one way or another.
well, not to mention the rudeness some people um, pay to the servers, even when it's unwarranted. Now, I will tell you this: I run into occasionally a bad server.
Yeah,
I'll still tip them, but I won't tip them as much. I want them to understand that you got to do better than this. There are some bad servers out there, but you always get these. I live in an area where there are certain people that have a lot of money and they go in and they're just really rude and shit. And I just do not get that. I don't understand what they're getting out of it, being rude to somebody who's just working hard to try to pay their bills. And you walk in there driving up in a Lamborghini or something, and you've got to talk shit to these people. That is the epitome of bullying to me, and I hate those motherfuckers.
me too. And I would not hesitate to accidentally dump a plate of food on somebody who's being an asshole like that, or spill my drink. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I've been known to say some shit now and again, and as I get older and I'm far less tougher,
Yeah,
I'm a little more selective on who I talk shit to.
yeah. Well, you wouldn't hit an old man, would you?
Yeah,
I
it's funny
know how to play it.
when I have my son who's 6'3" and about 240, I get real
Yeah.
brave on those days. I'm a real tough motherfucker then, because I got
Yeah.
backup. Um,
Well, I learned on the playground, which is the most savage place ever
it
invented,
is.
that you either got to be quick or you got to have large friends.
It's funny. When I was young, I played football, wrestled, and stuff, and I was a pretty good sized kid. And my son asked me one time. He goes, "Did you ever get in a fight in school?" I said, "Yeah, I got in a lot of fights in school." And he goes, "Did you ever lose?" I go, "You know what? I never lost a fight." He goes, "You must have been pretty tough." I said, "Not exactly. I just didn't fight with those guys I knew could kick my ass.
There you go.
I made
Yeah.
friends with those motherfuckers, and that was the smart thing to do."
Yep.
Still dealing with this cold, Ed. You said you got it too down there?
Well, I think mine is allergies. I never had allergies when I lived here as a kid, but
Right.
when we moved back here, suddenly I did. My wife has them bad too. I don't know. At some point, we may have to look at some sort of relocation, but I don't know where to go. I really don't. Last summer, we would have had to leave Minnesota because of the wildfires, smoke.
Right.
I mean, they had that. You know, there's all kinds of stuff everywhere now. It's just out of hand because we should have tackled global warming about the time I was born, and we couldn't be bothered. So now we've got climate change where constantly I think what's happening is vegetation that used to couldn't survive here in the winter, now it can. So it's just moving in, it moves further north every year, and it brings allergens that I was never exposed to before. I mean, the original stuff here, I'm not at all allergic to, but what's creeping up from Georgia is kicking my ass.
Well, if you ever question, excuse me, if you ever question climate change, and if you've
Yeah.
ever been to Minnesota, you'll appreciate this. It is December 8th. There is zero snow, and it's creeping up to 51 today.
Yeah.
How often
You
have you seen that when you were in Minnesota?
never. Never. I mean, I may have seen an occasional above 30 day in December, but if we didn't have snow by December 10th, it was like unusual, right?
Right, right,
But I mean, it was, but we would to typically get a huge snow along about December 10th every year. That would be on the ground until mid-April,
right,
probably.
right.
With a cake, it would melt down a little bit and then get more renewed. But we'd have snow cover from essentially December 10th right on. And I've seen years where it started at the end of October, you
Right.
know, many years.
Right.
But no, that shit ain't happening no more and anymore. Sorry, teachers. I know better, but I'm doing it for effect. They
There you
have,
go. I do it
yeah,
for effect too. I wanted to talk to you about uh, first of all, the debate, with
yeah,
those four clowns. And I,
yeah,
we've got Chris Christie,
yeah.
um, Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, and Vivek Ramaswamy. Somebody, I was watching some media guy. Now, Vivek Ramaswamy doesn't have a fucking prayer of being the nominee, but he's
No,
up there every time talking shit, and he's talking crazy shit,
yeah,
conspiracy theory shit,
yeah,
stuff about Donald Trump. And somebody made the suggestion that he knows he's not going to win,
right,
but it's almost like he's a plant for Donald Trump because he
yeah.
spews all the same things Donald Trump would spew.
I agree with that 10,000%. And I told my wife that the first time I saw him, he's a Trump surrogate.
I
Trump
think
is
so.
paying him to be there, promising him either a VP slot, which I doubt because he's brown, or something in some kind of cabinet position of some sort. He's been promised something. Guy's got money. He doesn't need money, but he's doing the crazy talk. He's a Trump surrogate, no doubt about it. Take it to the bank.
Well, some people were saying what he's talking about, especially with his age and how long he'll be around, that he poses a danger to this country. You
Nah.
know, you don't think so?
No, I think what he does, he is an opportunist. He will always, he's nothing but the reincarnation of Marco Rubio to me. I mean, he says the words and so forth, but he's got about as much substance as a sheet of paper, as much
Right.
depth as a sheet of paper. But I mean, obviously knows how to. He probably had a rich father too. They all do. All these
Yeah.
self-made men have rich parents, but um, I don't see him as a danger. I see, craziness as a danger. Yes, if it's accepted, and we saw what it can do on January 6th. People who accepted craziness went to Washington and behaved in a really crazy manner,
So
and a lot of
when do you think Ron DeSantis will finally realize he's done. He's been done for about a month now. But when do you think he'll actually own up to it and say, I don't have a fucking prayer here, and I'm a awkward, geeky looking weirdo?
That's, I don't know if he ever will, or if he'll just be, he'll run out of money and go away. But he's got to choose, he's got to run for governor here too pretty quick, doesn't
He
he?
can't. No, he can't.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. He's going to try to massage that somehow, I think. Oh, that's right. He can't.
He
Well,
can't
they'll
run.
try.
He did talk
They'll
about
try to
running for
change it.
senator, though,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
against Rick Scott, oddly enough.
Well, we know how that's going to go. I mean, Rick Scott is one of what I hope. I have to watch my words because I don't want to come across as one of these crazies that. But Rick
Oh, go
Scott
ahead.
is a person. Rick Scott is a guy I would like to see disappear in a
Right.
puff of smoke.
Right.
Sulfur and gone, because he's truly evil. He's truly, truly, truly evil, right up there with Trump.
Right.
But and not as stupid. But
Close.
which tells me he's got the money and the connections that he will never lose. The fix is in
Right.
Florida for him, the same way it is for Mitch McConnell in Kentucky. But they got a stranglehold on it. DeSantis could never beat him. But I think the big thing that came out of the debate is what's been making the rounds is the video of him when they were on commercial break, when he's just standing there
By
like
himself,
yeah, he's like an automation or something, and he's kind of tapping himself, and he's swaying back and forth, and he's got nothing. There's no depth here. There's no personality here beyond what he puts on, and when he's not putting it on, he's like an automation. Maybe he is an automation. Maybe Disney made him.
It's funny.
Maybe he escaped.
It's funny. There's that video out there, and they took some guy who's kind of sounds like him.
Yeah.
And they added a narrative over what he's doing. He goes, okay,
Yes.
move your leg this way.
Yeah.
Enact head motion to the right, and it's just it's hilarious. This guy is a weirdo.
What's that on my shoe? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was obvious that both he and Ramaswamy were gunning for Nikki. He because she's eclipsing him, taking second place from him. Ramaswamy because he's Trump's surrogate, gunning for Nikki. And then you got Chris Christie over here playing the knight in shining armor, who's going to defend the damsel in distress, who's just gunning for Trump because I really think Christie's thing is that he was probably promised something major in the Trump administration, and then as soon as he, they cut him loose as soon as Trump was elected. So I think there's some bitterness there, and I think there was probably some competition between the mafia guys that own Christie versus the ones that own the Kushners. So I don't know. Maybe there's a mob rivalry going on there too. I'm not sure what it is, but
I think Chris Christie is basically auditioning for some TV job, whether it be on the left side or the right side.
Yeah.
I mean, he'd be a good guy to have on the left side TV as kind of a counterpoint to somebody.
Yeah.
He's a big Fred Flintstone looking motherfucker that's loud and obnoxious, and people in this country like loud and obnoxious, a la Donald Trump. He has no chance of being president. And the thing is, people are fooled by this because it's kind of goes back to what we were talking about with Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney showed some integrity and fought against Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Chris Christie is doing the same thing. And so the people who aren't as informed are thinking, oh, they're on our side. We're going to vote for them. They're not on our side. But it shows how easy it is to get people on your fucking side.
Yeah, well, we all lose I call it the Han Solo syndrome. I mean, you got Han Solo, who seems like he's gonna leave, and he's just in it for money, and he loads up the stuff he wants, and he flies off. But then at the last minute, he comes swooping in and blows Darth Vader out of the sky. I mean, that's what Chris Christie's doing here. And then everybody's Han Solo's a hero. Well, he was still an opportunist. I'm sorry, but. That's the kind of thing we like, because we're so into TV and movies and so forth that we look for these things, these archetypes. We look for them in real life. We look for the bad boy who's really a good guy deep down, and that's what Christie's playing on here for sure.
So
the life ain't a movie, people.
So is Nikki the hooker with a heart of gold?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Now, Nikki, people, the crazy fucking thing about it is people look at Nikki as the normal one.
Yeah.
And by all appearances, she appears to be more normal than these other goofy fucks, including Donald Trump. But realistically, she's not much better than any of them. I mean, she was on Donald Trump's administration, ambassador to the UN. She stood there on the stage when they said, who will vote for Donald Trump even if he's convicted? She raised her hand. She's as much a Trump humper as fucking anybody else. She's just changing her style a little bit, and some people are buying into it. And it's a fucking joke.
Well, I don't remember the character's name in Veep, but that's who she is. She is, on Seinfeld, the character was Elaine Bennis, and the character on Veep was just a little bit more so.
Yeah, Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Right, is the actress, right. But the character she plays on Veep, which is hands down, along with the West Wing, probably the best ever.
That's a good show.
Political satire. It's much raunchier than West Wing, certainly. But much more true to life, I believe, in its own way, in its outrageousness. If you've never seen it, please just go binge it, because you will probably hurt yourself laughing. I do caution that.
I always liked her, and all the people on there are such goofball idiots. They play perfect politicians.
Yes. And even the ones who are supposed to be good people are also, equally compromised at one time or another. But she is so incredibly vile and incredibly crazy that she almost prefigures Trump in a way. I think that's who Nikki really is deep down. If you want to watch Veep, you'll get a handle on Nikki Haley.
Yeah, so do you think? I'm not honestly convinced that Donald Trump will be the nominee. I think some shit's going to happen. And I think the big money people agree with us, or me, because they're putting money behind Nikki Haley. The only way Nikki Haley wins is if he drops out. So if he drops out, then what are we left with? We've got 4 people that couldn't draw flies. So there's got to be some other option.
Well, I do believe that Trump will not be the nominee. He may start out as a nominee, but he won't finish up as a nominee. He won't make it to the convention. Let me put it that way. I mean, after the debates are done, the polls are still going to be there with him being. They added 2 debates. You know that, right?
I know. I just heard that. Yeah. Because the first 4 went so well.
That must be it. People are clamoring for more.
Oh, wow. Those are horrible.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody's watching them. I really don't. I mean, I don't watch them. I watch the clips, because why would I watch? Why would I don't. I would never vote for any of them under any circumstances. So why would I vote? And they're going to give you the juicy stuff anyway. But I predict that Trump will either go to jail, drop out, take a dirt bath, whatever it is. He's going to be gone. And none of those people are presidential material. No. Even in a bad year, you'll see another 15 come out of the woodwork, and ultimately, probably Sununu leads the pack. You'll see Ted Cruz jump in again. You'll probably see Rubio again. You'll probably, a lot of the retreads from last time, you'll see them pop back in. Who knows? Who knows? Pence might even decide to take a shot. Although I imagine the money guys just told him it ain't happening, dude.
Yeah, it's not happening. Well, I tell you this, I did see an article about that last debate,
Yeah.
and they said that was the lowest rated presidential debate in fucking history. So it's going so good. Let's add 2 more.
It's like one of those comedy tours where there's only like they're all bottom feeders, road dogs,
right.
And they're coming to a bowling alley near you,
right.
kind of thing, or else it's a Dennis Yost and the Classics 4 cover band.
Right.
Playing at a casino somewhere.
Yeah.
That's what these people remind me of, really.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. We always have Liz Cheney. She's suggesting that she might run.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of that because I do think she would. I think she might suck more from Biden than she would from Trump, and that's unfortunate. I do. I mean, I rail against Republicans for being stupid, but I know a lot of stupid Democrats too.
That's true. Well, like you said, there are some people who have taken to Liz Cheney because she is an enemy of Donald Trump, and they think she's on our side. She's not on our side. Her showing integrity and fighting against somebody trying to overthrow her country, nice, shows integrity, but that's her fucking job. She didn't do anything special there. It's just that everybody else was so fucked up.
Yeah, and that shows you how bad the Republican Party was when you consider how many Republicans voted not to certify the election when they had already certified. They had already certified the election. See, this is the thing what most people don't understand. That was taking place in December when all of the votes come in. It's certified then. There's nothing that Congress can do about it after that. That was all bogus crap. So there was never any validity to it at all. All they did was reveal themselves to be so partisan they would try to sidetrack an election that had already been certified.
So January 6th was almost just ceremonial.
Yeah, that's all it is, and that's what every constitutional scholar told them. Pence went out looking. He asked all of these Republican judges and legal people, and even Dan Quayle, "Can I do this?" And they said, "No, it's already certified, you moron." I mean, maybe not in those words, but that's certainly what they told him. There is nothing beyond it. Like you say, it's nothing but a ceremony. There's no constitutional integrity to it at all.
Right.
It's already happened. It was certified on December 12th or whatever the date is where it all has to begin. It's certified on the state level. It's brought to Washington where it's certified again. And that's all there is to it. At that point, it can't be changed. It's done.
Right. And the only reason that anybody thought it could be changed is because that's what Donald Trump wanted. And we got to give Donald Trump everything he wants.
Those were actually the words. Those were actually the words almost exactly that Mike Johnson used when Liz Cheney pressed him on it. Well, it's the last thing we're going to do for Trump, or that we have to do for Trump. Yeah. That was what he said, agreeing with Liz that it was illegal.
I'm looking, I'm going out of town tomorrow, and one of the listeners of the podcast sent me a link to Liz Cheney's audiobook.
Yeah.
With Audible, she can do that. So that was very nice of her to do. So I'm going to listen to the book. As much as I appreciate what she's done, I'm not a fan of Liz Cheney's because I know who she is. I know she is the spawn of Satan, literally. Yeah. Literally. Yeah. I mean, she has some integrity. I'll grant you that. I mean, if we had to get stuck with a Republican president, there's a lot of things I don't like about what Liz Cheney might do, but at least you can rest your head on some integrity that we now know that most politicians don't have. I hope she never is president. I don't think she certainly wouldn't win in 2024. What I really think about Liz Cheney and maybe Chris Christie and maybe Kinzinger, I think they foresaw what's happening here, meaning this whole MAGA thing can't sustain and it's going to crash and burn.
Yeah.
And then when it crashes and burns and the Republican Party has to reimagine itself, somebody like Liz Cheney is going to say, all right, let's get this back on track, be conservative, do whatever we're going to do, and have her kind of the face of the new Republican Party or the revised Republican Party to try to show she can offer some credibility that these people are normal as opposed to
Yeah.
what they had been. So I really think that's where she's going to land. It's kind of a leader or the face of whatever the new Republican Party is.
I have the secret to the election,
Okay.
and how that Biden can win. Number one, we've got a couple of secret weapons. Taylor Swift, for one.
Oh, fuck yeah.
I mean, she has the young woman vote and the probably young, some of the young men.
Yeah.
She got them locked up, and they're not voting for Trump. Okay, so that's great. Women, from a poll I saw today, Democratic women are interested mostly in abortion. That's their number one issue. Republican women, abortion, same one.
Wow.
Secondary Republicans, it's the economy. With Democratic women, it's guns.
Wow.
So what we need to do is, I call it the Lysistrata strategy. And that is, all the women have to tell the men in their lives the love nest is closed until after the election.
Right.
And this is especially with young women, they tell their boyfriends, we're done unless you vote the way I want. Now there's no guarantee they'll go in there and pull the right lever, of course, but still they got to put that out there. I mean, that is a power that they have that they could certainly use, and I hope they do. But mostly, there's more women than men. If they just show up and vote the things that they really are concerned about. There's more Democratic women than there are Republican women. So if they both vote because of the abortion issue, and then the gun thing will sway the Democratic women the right way. I mean, because we're tired of this stuff. As you just pointed out with the old soul, I mean, your kids are at a place where a nutbag shows up with a gun and starts shooting. Right. He don't got a gun. He just shows up.
Right.
Maybe he shows up with a hammer. Maybe he shows up with a knife, but it's not the same. Right. It is not the same. And we got to get a handle on this, and Republicans never will. They will not do it. They are owned by the NRA, and they will not do anything sensible about gun control. And here, nobody needs an assault weapon.
No.
Nobody. I know what they can do. I fired expert with one in the military. I know what an M16 can do, and it's the only thing it can do is kill people. That's what it's for. That's what it was made for. That's what it's still made for. And it needs to be banned. No citizen needs one. I don't even want the police to have them.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably best to take that out. I just want to say about Taylor Swift. I don't know a lot about her music. I know some of her songs, "Shake It Up," but I don't know a lot of the songs. But I have a lot of respect for her because she's speaking her mind when everybody around her told her not to. She said, "Fuck that. This is important to me." She's a young woman that has some integrity too, and she stands up for what she believes, and she took the risk. And what happened? She just got more fucking popular. That's what happened. It didn't hurt her at all.
No.
But there is a bombshell news report out that might blow up this whole thing for Taylor. Now just get ready, because this is going to shake you a little bit. Laura Loomer came out, tweeted out. He said, "Oh yeah, it's great about Taylor Swift, but she's connected to George Soros." Seriously, she said that.
I know. Oh, well, she is the female equivalent of Santos.
Right.
She, she really is.
Well, and the
And
thing
why
about
any,
it is, Taylor's a legitimate billionaire. Why does
right.
she need fucking Soros?
She doesn't.
She
You
wanted to
know,
do a movie and she paid for it herself. She doesn't
right.
need George Soros.
No. And this is the thing that he's the bugaboo to all these Republicans. Nobody knows who he is. I
No.
mean, a guy here that I spar with occasionally. Well, George Soros. I said, tell me about George Soros.
Yeah, what's he
Well,
about?
he's a communist. No, he's not a communist. As a matter of fact, he fought against communism. You know what he did? Uh, Back East Germany, okay, and points east when
Right.
the Soviets controlled all of that. He decided that one of the best things he can invest in was mimeograph machines. Remember those? Because that was something they needed to be able to put out leaflets and so
Right.
forth. So he gave the East Germans all of these mimeograph machines and so forth that ultimately helped bring down the East German government. And this was through Czechoslovakia, it was through all of these places when they were all controlled by Soviet puppets, right? That is who George Soros is, as big an anti-communist as there ever was.
Well, I think
Right?
they found one rich guy that's liberal, and
Yeah.
they decided to make him the boogeyman.
Yeah, exactly. George Soros has been a fighter for freedom his whole life, and he's put his money where it is, where the cash, where it did the most good in ways that did the most good. And they just don't like him because he gives money to liberal candidates. Yes,
Right. Right.
but
That's
what's the difference between that and the Koch brothers? Zero,
no,
zero
nothing.
difference.
Well, the thing about it is I don't know if the Republicans know what they're getting into. If I was going to pick somebody to talk shit about, the last person would be Taylor Swift. She's
Yeah.
not only immensely popular, these people are immensely loyal. You say a
Yes.
bad word about her, you're not getting their vote, and you might even get jumped in a fucking alley because they are fervently in favor of her. And she's one of those people in entertainment that I can't say anything negative about. She does everything right.
Yeah.
She's clean and pure, and the music she does, it's maybe not my taste, but I'm 40 years older than she is, or 30 years older than she is. But I respect
Exactly.
what she's doing. And if the Democrats don't embrace her and take any help she's willing to offer, they're fucking stupid.
I want to see her on the in the Capitol Rotunda on election on inauguration day. She
Yeah.
should be invited because she will have been the one who really contributed more than anybody else to a Democratic win. I do believe. Um, yeah. Most people. I did see a thing the other day that said that Republican men can't get dates. I think so. This feeds right into my list of Strata strategy. Just freeze them out. That's all. Make them pay for it,
Well,
which they do.
it's funny you brought that up because people haven't heard it yet. It'll be on tomorrow's show with Old Soul. We were talking about how weird and awkward Ron DeSantis is. And
Yeah.
I said to Old Soul, Old Soul, you're 43, right? She said, yeah. I said, Ron DeSantis is 44. Let's forget he's a governor. Let's forget he is a presidential candidate. You're in a bar, in a club someplace, Old Soul. And Ron DeSantis, just plain old Ron DeSantis walks up, doing the weird shit he does. And he wants to talk to you, Old Soul. What do you do in that case? She goes, I bolt to my car and I get on my phone and I call somebody because that motherfucker's creepy.
She looks down at him and tells him, go away.
Yeah. Yeah. He steps up on his tiptoes and said, would you like to dance? Yeah. It's absolutely. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Ed. I'm in Vegas as we're listening to this. I didn't want to have to try to do it from Vegas because there's a lot of shit going on. So I appreciate you coming on and doing this. And we'll see what happens next week. Of course, I'll text you again on Thursday and say, you got time? And presumably you will, and we can do this all over again. But it's always a great pleasure to have you on and take off some of the weight off my back on this fucking show.
Well, I'm glad to do it. It's a fun thing for me, and I'm as far as I know, I'll be here next week.
All right. Well, before we go, I have to remember to do this. Tell folks where they can find you, because you do some other stuff online on TikTok and YouTube, and it's not necessarily political, but it is entertaining as hell.
Well, I've got one that's fairly political that folks seem to like right now, and it's about how we need to give women the chance for a while and just fade out of the way.
No shit. No shit.
Because they sure as hell can't do worse. And I give some good examples. It's basically pointing out the difference between Henry Kissinger that who faded, who left us,
Right.
and Rosalind Carter and Sandra Day O'Connor.
Right.
How they, in my opinion, contributed much more positive than he ever could have.
Right.
And I mentioned some others like Eleanor Roosevelt and so forth, who, in spite of all of the pressures against their gender when they were there, managed to make a positive contribution. You can find that at Holler Troll on TikTok, or Reelin' in the Years on that's with Reelin' with an apostrophe, spelled REALIN apostrophe, like real instead of REEL. Reelin' in the Years on YouTube. I occasionally throw something up on Reels, but I haven't done anything lately. But mainly TikTok at Holler, HOLLER, Troll, TROLL. I got a whole bunch of videos on there that you can revel in.
And one of the things that I envy you with doing what you do is that whether I'm doing a podcast or a TikTok, unlike yours, mine have a shelf life. Somebody came on, and I've told the story. Somebody sent me a DM and say, look, I like your show, all that stuff. I'm glad you're getting better, but Jesus Christ, if you don't get better, start playing the best of Rational Boom. I go, I don't have the fucking best of. There is no best of. If it's a week old, it's past the expiration date. Now, what you're doing, of course, you can come along 2 years from now, enjoy one of your reports anytime. So it's always great to check it out. And I always kind of compare you to Paul Harvey, the rest of the story.
I get that a lot.
Yeah. But it's an interesting story with a payoff.
Yeah.
And that's what I like.
It's funny. It's funny you should mention that. A lady, I think it was this morning, I noticed that she had liked like 20 of the videos. So she just watched them one after the other. And I happened to click on one, and I'd totally forgotten it. I sat there and listened to it. And, oh, that's pretty good. Totally forgotten I did it. But I really appreciate when somebody does that. I mean, ultimately, I'd like to just, have everybody listen to them.
Yeah,
so share them, like and share, become a follower, please. At Holler Troll, on TikTok.
I endorse this. Make sure you follow Holler Troll and go to YouTube. I'm on YouTube. Ed's on YouTube. It's always entertaining to listen to Dad. He's, as much as he's good on the podcast, he's a great storyteller, and that's a valuable talent these days. There aren't many storytellers. I sit and watch TikTok and I get annoyed because these people have this concept or this topic that they're going to, and they spend 3 minutes setting it up. It just fucking makes me mad. Just get to the point. Tell me the story. And you do that. So I appreciate that.
Well, I like your TikTok things too. They're quick in, quick out, and I always learn something good, or it solidifies something I was already thinking. One of the two, but
Right, right, all right, exactly.
check yours out as well.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, well, I appreciate it, Ed. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to get this shit put together and get ready to get out of town. But for the folks listening, I hope you have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow.